society tells anyone who identifies as a woman that you're less than, that your opinion matters less, that you should just sit there and be pretty. So whenever we can take our power back, like that, our world is better for it.
Welcome to this very special episode of Hey Awesome Girl with Tivi Jones. I'm Demi Vitkute, the producer of the show, and to celebrate the end of our season, we turn the tables and interview Tivi. We talk about how Hey Awesome Girl came to be, choices, freedom, and even multiverses. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey, Tivi.
Whew.
Like I said before, sweating from having to interview my boss, but really happy to be able to do so. I don't have to ask you to introduce yourself because everybody knows who you are. You're the host and CEO and founder of Hey Awesome Girl. But for this interview, I want the audience to get to know you a little bit better, and that's when I decided to start from the beginning.
Okay.
So, how has your childhood shaped who you are today?
Yeah. As I said earlier, I love this question so much. Um, my childhood definitely influenced my decision to get into media. So I grew up in a town called Rocky Mount. It's in the eastern part of North Carolina. And I love books, love media, love magazines, love TV shows, and specifically with books and magazines because I just love the tangible aspect of being able to hold a story or hold information in my hand. What I realized is there weren't a lot of people that looked like me in some of the popular magazines that I had access to. And so it really taught me a lot in my like little kid brain, like different representation or lack of representation of people. So that's one thing. And then because of sort of I had a good childhood, but it was also very like emotionally fraught and emotionally challenging for me. And so it gave me an appreciation of self self work and healing, um, and just trying to be a better person in general, and always like striving to be a better person and learn more about myself. And so I would say those are two ways my childhood has influenced me.
So, as we talked before, and I told you that I watched the movie just recently called Everything Everywhere All at Once by
Mm,
the directors, what they call Two Daniels. And I said they
mm.
went to Emerson College, and that's the most Emerson College movie I've ever seen. Very much absurdism, existentialism, but very good, very emotional. So, the
Hmm.
question that I have for you is imagine a multiverse of yourself and
Hmm.
based on the decisions that you made in the past and the choices, what are some other versions of Tivi that could have been?
I love this question. The sci-fi nerd in me is like, yay! So I think there are a few versions. One, I will start with, I think there is a version of me that is quite mean and hurts people because hurt people. And I think that there's a version of me that would have looked at some of the things that have happened to me in my life and chose to like sit in this feeling of I did not deserve this. I did not deserve to suffer in this way, and so therefore I'm going to make other people suffer because people do that. I think there's a version of me that stayed in my first marriage because she didn't want to be a quitter, and you're married to a good person, and you being unhappy isn't a good enough reason uh, to stay in something, especially when you're with a good person. Um, I think there's a version of me who is filthy rich because she listened to her gut. She like didn't let people stop her. She sought out opportunities a lot sooner than I've sought out opportunities. Just really trusting that little voice inside her head. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I think maybe there's a version of me that's a little more hippie than I am now, or is already living on the farm, like has like 3 dogs and some chickens and some cats and grows her own food and everything. So I don't know. That's really fun to think about all the different permutations of me.
It definitely is. And like we talked about before, is that even though those choices can seem very permanent, and in some
Hmm.
cases, like maybe they are, but it's
Yeah,
important to realize that we're able to like change things and like think about the future selves.
yeah,
So for
yeah.
example, like you talking about being filthy rich, like
Hmm.
that's a titty, or maybe like being a little bit more of a hippie. I know that you
Yeah,
want a house and a
that's
farm,
coming.
so like both
That's coming.
truths can be true at the same time, which I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah. That's a good point. Really good
Yeah.
point.
And it's also important to acknowledge that and appreciate the versions, our current versions, and to be proud of
Mm-hmm.
ourselves for being who we are now and having
Yeah.
choices to be who we are now.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, that version of yourself where you could have been mean, or
Mm-hmm.
I can, especially if you had like an emotional childhood, there are so many ways that you could have been, and
Mm-hmm.
yet you had the perseverance to be the TV who you are today, and
Mm.
just like be this amazing person who radiates the light and
Oh,
warms everyone up, especially with "Hey, awesome girl."
oh, thank you,
And like
Demi.
that's one of the reasons when I first interviewed with you, a lot of companies say that they have a social mission, but
Yeah.
kind of just for the eyes, just to make
Mm-hmm.
them more appealing. But
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
I first talked to you, I was like, wow, she gets me. Like this is my
Oh.
person, because you can just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very mission driven. So I was like, you're amazing. And yeah, so you
Oh.
should really be grateful for yourself for being this version of yourself in this life, which is
Yeah.
amazing. And for me, thinking about, if I didn't come to the US almost
Mm-hmm.
11 years ago now, I wouldn't even be here speaking to you. So
Mm.
think about all the choices that we made. Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes when I go back to Lithuania, I can see what my life could have been as a fun
Mm-hmm.
house version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of spooky. It's like, wow, if I never
Yeah.
left, like I would have this kind of mindset, maybe I would
Mm-hmm.
already be
Mm-hmm.
married and have kids because there's nothing else that uh,
Yeah.
I would have wanted to do. And I'm super proud of being here and being who I am, because I know that if I
Yeah.
didn't leave, I wouldn't be the same person, which
Yeah.
is like have a different worldview and the
Mm-hmm.
values and be as progressive as I am probably today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's
it's interesting
beautiful.
to think about.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, it's the more we have different experiences, the more, it puts us in a new position to learn more about ourselves or to learn more about a situation. So, even if let's say I would have stayed with my ex-partner, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Like even me, like in this body, this brain, these emotions, I don't think that if that's the choice that I chose and there was a way to get back to my happiness and get back to my purpose within that relationship, that's fine. I think the only permutation of myself that I have a little bit of judgment on is like the person who's mean. But maybe that mean person was mean for a while and then they discovered like, hey, this am I really doing this thing because of these reasons? And then they flipped and they turned into Mother Teresa. I don't know. Maybe there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
whatever path that we decide to take.
Absolutely. There are many paths ahead of us, and it's important to look into the future rather than like looking in the past and being nostalgic and melancholic about it, which
Yep.
sometimes is nice, but we can't
Hmm.
get stuck in that.
Yeah, for sure.
So going back to what you said about your childhood and how you were
Hmm.
always into magazines and
Hmm.
media, did you always see yourself like being in media? And I know you got a journalism degree.
Hmm.
How did you go from media to becoming an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, the path has not been linear, I'll say. Like the first job that I wanted as like a kid in elementary school, I was probably in kindergarten, was like, oh, I'm gonna be a doctor because it's like that's what you do. You want to be successful, like you're a doctor or a lawyer. And I thought, well, saving lives, that sounds like a great thing. Like, I'll be a doctor. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I was in my mom's bedroom and we were watching this like medical procedure show, like way back in the day, like early 90s, super early 90s. And I remember like watching them like cut people open and like they were doing all, and I said, "Oh no, that is not for me. I do not want to do that." And so then I wanted to become a teacher, and like being a teacher was like something that I could like wrap my head around. I taught my younger brother how to read. I was like 7 years old and he was like four. Like I taught him like his first like little bit of reading. And so I was like, oh wow, I'll be a teacher. And I don't know when like the desire to be a teacher left me, but at some point, probably like middle school, high school, I thought a lot about magazines. I thought about being a magazine publisher. Um, and having, actually, you know what? Before that, elementary school, I made my first magazine in elementary school, like on, what was it called? Microsoft Publisher, I think it was back then. And I printed it out. I had like different sections. And it's funny, I'm thinking about this now. It's so funny because the purpose of the magazine was to be an inspirational magazine for my best friend. And it had like all of these articles like to inspire her because she was like going through a rough time. It's so funny that I do what I do now because, there's alignment. Anyway, fast forward several years, all the way to college. I wanted to go to business school. I went to UNC Chapel Hill and I wanted to study business. And I thought, I'll get my MBA, I'll, start my own business. And I didn't even realize that there was a journalism school at UNC, which it has a really good journalism school. And tried to do business school. I think it's Econ 10 was the name of it back then. Basically like the entry level economy class kicked my ass. And I was like, and it's a requirement to go to business school. And so I was like, I don't know if I can actually do this. So I bounced around, majors. I did Spanish and Latin American studies. Then I discovered journalism school. I think my end of my sophomore year, early junior year, because I had to do it in like 2 years. So, um, decided to study journalism with a focus in advertising. And I ended up getting a minor in entrepreneurship. And so that like started
Mhm.
my journey. So I felt like that was like the perfect combination for me, like entrepreneurship, journalism, advertising. And it's kind of, it's like everything that I do
I
now.
love that. Yeah, it like literally what you do right now, which
Hmm.
is beautiful. And I think a lot of students like I have my cousins right now like who don't know what they want to major in, and I
Hmm.
think just your story also highlights that it's okay because you can jump
Yeah.
in and then see what you like.
Hmm. I actually, I don't regret getting my degree in journalism, um, with a focus in with a minor in entrepreneurship. But I remember my senior year, I took several art history classes, and
Mm.
I loved it. Like I think often like I want to go back and take some more art history classes because I love art. I was always an artistic kid. I actually had an art show in my senior year in high school.
Wow.
And sometimes I think I could have gotten my degree in art history and just like loved every bit of college, and then I still could have been an entrepreneur. I still could have become I still could have like taken other classes and gotten a certification in journalism or like practice. You know what I mean? Like what you major in college, and there might be some parents listening. They're like, be quiet. What you major in college does not determine your career necessarily unless you want it to determine your career. Like you can study something that you're passionate about. Like you can study a soft skill. You can, it matters, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's so funny though because I just imagine a different version of Tivi, like an artist with like a little French hat,
Yeah.
going to art events.
My little art, my little paint palette.
I love that. Okay, so after college, what did you do after college?
So during college, I started working basically full time. And then after college, I just took a legit full time role at one of the companies that I was working with. It was a lighting technology company in Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. So I worked with them as their marketing lead for several years during college and after. In like a year after college, I knew I wanted to move to media industry. And so I found a magazine here in Durham called Carolina Parent Magazine. And
I know
I,
this. How come
huh?
I'm just hearing about this now? I had no idea.
Yeah, I was still working at the
Wow.
lighting technology company, and I thought, a year out of college, if I want to have my own magazine one day, I need to work for a magazine. And so I tried to find someone, a local magazine, and one of the local magazines that appealed to me most was a parenting magazine because my Capricorn brain, I'm like, I'll get a job and I'll also learn how to become a good parent for when I have kids one day. And so I
Wow.
reached out to them. They did not have a job opening. I like had an informational interview with them. I was like, I really want to work here. Here are my skills. They decided to hire for like a part-time, I think it was like a part-time sales associate role.
Hmm.
And so I went in to interview for the role. And Demi, when I say I came prepared, I was prepared. Like I had a whole presentation. I stayed up till 4 o'clock, like the night before the interview. I am not good at staying up late. Like that's one thing I'm very bad at. Like I'm a 9:30, I'm falling asleep. Stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning, made a presentation. I like made this, like I printed out like a multi-page portfolio of all my work, and I like literally looked at the job description and like wrote out all of the ways I could help them and what I'd done in the past that matched up to what they were looking for. This was a part-time sales associate job. I pitched that thing so good, they created a full-time marketing role for me.
Wow. And this was right after college?
This was a year after college.
Yeah.
So I'd been, working at the lighting technology company, but I wanted to move. So it didn't pay well. I actually took a $10,000 pay cut to work at the magazine. They hired me at like 30 grand a year, and I left my previous job, but the lighting company still wanted to work with me. And so this was like one of my first forays into consulting because I would literally work at the magazine during the day as my full-time job and then go over to the lighting technology company in the evenings and work for like 2 hours a day and sometimes work from home. And this was back in like 2008, 2009. And I held both roles for, it was a year. So I started the magazine in 2008, and I think I left the lighting technology company in 2009. And then I ended up leaving the magazine in 2010 to start my consulting full time. And they became my second client when I left.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so you started your consulting, and then what happened since then? Like,
Oh
how
my
did you
gosh.
get to Hey Awesome Girl?
Whew, child. It's been a journey. Um, so I decided in June 2010 that I was going to leave the magazine. I loved working there. There were a few issues with that organization. Part of it, and I get it as a business owner, part of it was I felt like I was killing it. Like I was bringing in revenue for the company, I was bringing in new readers, I was bringing in subscribers, I was launching new initiatives, and I asked for a raise. I was still at 30 grand a year. Um, and they could only give me like a $3,000 a year raise, which is fine. I get again, as a business owner, I get it. Budgets are budgets. Sometimes things are really tight. The margins can be tight. But I just thought, if I work harder, I'm not going to get paid more unless I work for myself. So I decided to leave. uh, July, June 2010. Got my first consulting client in July. It was like a little part time gig. I worked in the
Mm.
evenings and resigned from the magazine. Ended up staying on a couple extra months because we were working on a website redesign and I was a lead on that. And so I left. My last day was like the end of November 2010. Started working for myself full time December 2010. Still working with the magazine as a consultant. Things felt so aligned. So, like, my first month working for myself, like, I still remember that feeling. I did like an online branding boot camp, like brought in over 200 leads for my business with that online branding boot camp. Like I felt like I was in my zone. And so like for the next 2 to 3 months, I really leaned into creating the type of company that I wanted to create, speaking in a way that I wanted to speak, being down to earth, being myself, being able to show up as a Southern Black woman, Southern millennial Black, even though they weren't saying millennial back then, a Southern millennial Black woman who is candid, who can talk about really complicated issues, but does so in a very, like, sometimes lowbrow way. I was really finding a market there. And I remember in February 2011, so this was a few months after I started consulting full time, my mentor, who was very high up in the magazine, pulled me into her office and started complaining that there were curse words on my website.
Hmm.
And she basically told me in very clear language that she refers people to me and I represent her and I can't have curse words on my website. And that really affected me. It made me second guess everything. It made me second guess my voice. It made me second guess the type of business that I wanted to build. And I literally like shut my website down. Like I had a like coming soon page on my website for months and months and months and just had like contact me at this if you're interested in working with me. But when I say that really fucked me up for someone who I looked up to so much to basically tell me that I wasn't doing my business right. And it triggered that wounded child in me that had a lot of issues with people telling her how to behave, telling her how to feel, telling her how to show up. And that's something that I had to work through in for many years in my business, like my voice and showing up as my full self. So, yeah, that was like 3 months into me working for myself full time. And I feel like I had a really successful run, in my years of business since then. I was able to consult with a lot of great brands. I worked with PBS. I ended up getting a job with PBS because of consulting, like all of this. But this is why messages matter. I think one thing that I try to do at Hey Awesome Girl is let people show up as themselves. And my hope is that if you buy into working with Hey Awesome Girl, you're buying into the mission. You're buying into, who I am and how I run the business. But I don't want a whole bunch of mini titties. You know what I mean? Like I want Demis, I want Heathers, I want Dummins, I want Rajas, like all of the team members because y'all have your own personalities and expertise and way of doing things. And, you know, yes, if it's, related to clients, I do want to, give feedback, but that instance with my mentor shaming me for being myself, and I didn't really have words for it back then. That really impacted who I am and how I showed up in my business for years. So I know that hasn't even gotten to Hey Awesome Girl, but I want to just pause
Well, but
for a
yeah,
moment.
let's just pause. Um,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Thank you for sharing that because I know for me, mentorship in all kinds of ways is very important. Having a mentor myself and like mentoring younger writers, but what you said about your mentor shaming you kind of reminded me of you know how we view our parents or older family members when we're kids
Mhm.
as gods.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think when we grow up and our mentor is kind of like our God,
Mhm.
so to hear them say something like that, to hear your mentor, or when you grow up to hear one of your family members say
Mhm.
something like that, it's so crushing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because the entire idea that you had in your head about this person who you looked
Mhm.
up to so much
Yeah.
just shatters.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm so sorry that that happened to you, and oh, I wouldn't want that to happen to me, my
Mm.
mentor. But I think it's also such such an experience that made you grow, I think,
Yeah.
because it made you realize that I'm different from this mentor. Perhaps I've
Mhm.
outgrown her already, and I
Mhm.
have my own voice, and no one can
Mhm.
tell me what my voice should be. Not a parent, not a mentor. And that's
Yeah.
so important to stick to that, because I think, that society, or we have our own little voice in our
Mhm.
head that I know that
Mhm.
we talked about. Well, you talked with one of your guests, you called it mind trash, or she called
Mhm.
it
Yep.
maybe
That part. Yep. Uh-huh.
or something. So it's like we have our own voice, and then having like your parents, your family, your mentors, and the
Mhm.
society, like live in
Yep.
like this chaos of voices to tell you what you should do, and like who you should be
Mhm.
and how you should act and what you should see on your website. Oh, it's so insulting.
Right.
and, and it's
Right. My
so
own
important.
damn website. The
Yeah.
nerve.
And just so important to keep your voice like in the midst of this chaos, to not lose your own voice, because nothing else matters. And I'm happy that you found it and grew from it, but that's crazy.
Like, and you hit the nail on the head. Like realizing that my parents are people, realizing that my mentors are people, and sometimes they have unprocessed trauma
Right.
themselves.
It's all about you,
And
per se.
right, it's not all about me, but I had for a long time, and I still talk about this in therapy. I just recognize it. My mom didn't have an easy time raising three kids, being a divorcee in the South. And, sometimes she was tired, like when she get home from work. But in my little kid brain, sometimes the ways that she interacted with us gave me the sense that she didn't love us, that
Mm.
I was unworthy of love, and that no matter what I did, I could never do enough to earn her love. So I was very much an overachiever growing up. Like even in elementary school, I would write these plans of how to be a perfect sixth grader, how to, have the perfect year. Every year, I would write a plan going into the next school year for that first semester. And then on like Christmas break, I would make the plan for the next semester. And a lot of it is just, who I am, but a lot of it was me thinking, mm, my mom doesn't love me yet. Like I haven't made her happy enough yet. And so I have to be better. I have to be better. I have to be better. I have to keep trying. And that root, that foundation of feeling unworthy and feeling unloved in your own home, because in my little kid brain, I couldn't like I couldn't process that, damn, my mom's really going through some like, and there were things that she wasn't telling us because she was shielding us from it, which I definitely understand as an adult. And so sometimes you got to unpack and unroll all of those things that you learned in your with your little kid brain and realize that some of it is just not true.
Absolutely.
But sometimes you get so used to living with that lie that that's the foundation of how you act and how you behave. And I had to unroll a lot of those truths in my life.
And also the fact that you had to be the perfect sixth grader, create a plan, or work so hard to be you, instead of just being Tivi as a human. I think that
Yeah.
also, at least for me, translates into work, because one of the things that I work with my therapist is not tying my identity to work, and
Mhm.
understanding that
Mhm.
Demi as a
Woo.
human is enough.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I don't have to do anything to be worthy, because I'm just a loving
Yep.
human. But
Mhm.
but so many times I tie my identity to work. And you
Mhm.
probably could relate because we're both
Oh yeah.
achievers and like ambitious people. And I feel like if I'm not
Mhm.
hitting certain steps, I like start
Yeah.
going crazy and I feel like I'm not worthy,
Mhm.
I'm not doing enough, and all of that like voice
Yeah.
that's in your head. So
Mhm.
like we talk about Hey Awesome Girl and like business and work, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's just so important to be Tivi and Demi as humans,
Mhm.
as our own
Yeah.
identity and not tie it to work.
Right. I mean, and a lot of times we make I made up this business. Like this whole business is something that I made up in my head,
Right.
which is extremely powerful because I had a call yesterday with someone and we were talking about I was telling her how I was feeling stressed about my schedule
Mhm.
that morning, and then I had to check myself like, "You made the schedule. Like, you can change like, I'm
Right.
being anxious about something that I
You
made up.
made it.
Like, I can change it."
So I know that we went on a tangent, but I think
Mhm.
that's the best meat in those tangents, right?
Yes.
But so how did you come up with Hey Awesome Girl? Like what
Mm,
was there a particular spark and an idea
yeah.
that you had for this company?
Yeah, I remember this too. So I was, working at PBS, and it was October 2016. So I had as I mentioned, I got a consulting gig at PBS based on my work, and from that I consulted with them for about 3 months, and their director of marketing was retiring, and they asked me if I was interested in being their director of marketing communications. I applied, got the job, was probably 6 months ish into the job, not even, and I knew it wasn't for me for a variety of reasons. And I remember feeling like super inspired by a few influencers and podcasters. So one is Francesca Medina, who goes by Hey Friend Hey, and another one was Miriam Hasnea, who runs Resonance Apothecary, and a few other people too, like Issa Rae. And I just remember like thinking about just how much joy and inspiration I get from them. These women, and it was mostly women of color, but white women as well. And I remember thinking, I really want to write letters to these amazing women and just celebrate them because I'm going through a really tough time and I have so much appreciation for what they do. And the phrase "Hey, awesome girl" popped into my head, and like as a start to the letters. And I thought, I went on GoDaddy, I bought the domain. I'm like, I'm gonna like start a blog or a media company where that's what we do is we write letters to women who inspire us, who are doing great work, and we use it as a way to both celebrate them and empower them, but also to just create more positivity in the ecosystem. And it was October 16th, 2016, that the idea came to me. And yeah, from there, I mean, I thought it was going to be just a media company. Um, by 2018, I knew that I wanted to lead with that, like in my marketing, in the creativity and the communications. And so it's kind of developed from there. And now we, as you know, do all the creative things where, we still want to do our publishing, and we have a lot of well, we are doing publishing now. We got a whole damn
No
show.
more.
I forgot where I was for a second. So yeah, there's still a lot more that we want to do with Hey Awesome Girl, but definitely the goal is to honor that original spark and that social mission to empower women.
I love that, and I think the future of Hey Awesome Girl is so bright, and there's so much more coming. I remember when you were hiring me a year ago, which actually you told me that it's been my 1 year anniversary. So,
Yeah.
oh my God, time flies. It's crazy. But I
Yeah.
remember you mentioned how you wanted to be a publishing house as well, and I
Mhm.
love how you're starting with that, with the show and
Yeah.
everything, and that's amazing. But
Thank you.
your social mission to empower women with digital entrepreneurship and close the
Mhm.
gender pay gaps
Mhm.
and racial gaps. Can you talk
Mhm.
more about that? I also remember, like you told one of our guests, how certain social issues, let's say like Black Lives Matter, um,
Mhm.
like it's your job. I remember you said it to
Mhm.
this guest. You're like, it's my job.
Yeah.
Like these like
Mhm.
things are my job. So can you talk more about that and how social mission ties into Hey Awesome Girl?
Yeah. Thank you for this question. I'm really inspired. One of my mentors, Rachel Rogers, I have her book here on my desk. Her book is called We Should All Be Millionaires. And her mission is very similar to help historically marginalized people. I apologize for the sound that's about to happen. Someone just knocked on the door, and Olivia is about to be going crazy.
Hear it.
Um, so, yeah, she talks about her social mission to help historically marginalized groups be millionaires, to succeed in business. That's women, that's Black people, queer people, and anyone who is not like cisgender white guy, because cisgender white men have been running society for millennia. Um, and so it's really, even before I discovered Rachel Rogers, I just always felt called to make a difference. Like, yeah, I want to make money. I want to eliminate money as a barrier in my life. I want to be able to use money as a resource. But I also want to inspire. I want to empower. Like that word empower is really important to me. Because I've seen like I said, I grew up, my father was and is in my life, but I grew up primarily with my mother. She had, custody of us most of the time. And I see how her and my aunt and my grandmother and other women in community hold it down. Like do a lot of the work. Hold the family unit together, speak up when things are wrong. And studies show, the facts are that when we invest in women,
Mm.
communities are better, children are better, women reinvest in their communities. And I have personally seen on the consulting side how me being a consultant and this journey of me being a consultant has helped me find my voice, has helped me gain my confidence, has helped me with therapy and with coaching to get out of depression. It's helped me speak up on things that are really important to me. I lost my younger brother when he was 30. This was 4 years ago. He suffered from depression, and I have been able to talk about that publicly. I've been able to advocate for that. I've been able to invest in myself and others. And yeah, I just know the power of entrepreneurship. I know the power of making means and making a living for yourself by using your mind and using your skills, and the power of people hiring you and saying, "Hey, Demi, like I really value your expertise. I really value your opinion." That does something, in my opinion, to young girls, to people who identify as women, because society tells anyone who identifies as a woman that you're less than, that your opinion matters less, that you should just sit there and be pretty,
Mm.
that you should be you are controlled. And so whenever we can take our power back, like that, our world is better for it.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Tivi. And thank you for sharing that about your brother because I can't even imagine how one can come back from that. And it's personal, I think, for a lot of us. And you're so strong to be able to say this out loud and just be who you are and so strong and powerful and inspire other women.
Mm,
And I know we talked about multiverses. It reminds me of a person who I met who lost their brother and who told me that they didn't want to live. So
mm,
different universes, different people. I'm so proud of you, and sending you a big hug
Thank
for like
you.
being Tivi who you are today and powering through and still shining and radiating that light. And I think one of the things that I frequently think about when I watch your interviews is you present yourself as this like amazing, energetic, radiating person, but I think um, a lot of people don't know how much you've been through, and I feel that for you. You know, I'm like, wow, to be
Yeah.
like you're amazing, and to be able to have gone through all of that and still channel this energy and this light and this warmth that you radiate. I just think it's phenomenal, right?
Mm.
You're a phenomenal woman.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. And I do want to say that, we all go through things. One of my life coaches says, I wish I could get the quote right, but C. Renee Washington, if you don't follow her online, she's amazing. Um, I believe the quote is, uh, suffering isn't commiserate. It basically it's like you can't, or comparable. You can't like compare your suffering
Right.
to other people. We all suffer, we all have our burdens to carry. And I do want to say too, like, grief doesn't, and I think we talked about this with Kia and Mars on the show. Grief isn't linear. I can talk about my brother passing right now, but there are some days where I'm really torn up about it. I'm like ugly crying about it. I'm really sad. I'm always sad. It's just, I think I don't want people to feel like grief for you has to be you talking about it and not crying and being positive and like channeling it into like doing something. Sometimes you just need to be in the bed eating ice cream under the covers, crying your eyes out because you miss your brother or your mom or your dad or your best friend. It's okay. The shit is hard, and again, it's not linear. I appreciate you saying that. And at the same time, some days are tough.
Absolutely. And you can't keep those emotions inside. Like I know some of us are told like growing up that we can't cry or like can't express
Mhm.
emotions. So
Mhm.
it's important to cry and have those days, like you said, eating ice cream and crying in bed to be able to
Yeah.
then move forward because you can't live with those feelings eating you up from inside. You have to let them
Right.
go.
Yeah, for sure. Mm.
Thank you for sharing that.
No
Every
problem.
time I learn so much from you and every guest when I write about the show, when I watch the show, and there are some questions that stick out to me that you ask others or that are being
Mhm.
discussed.
Mhm.
But I would like you to like share the answer because I know you're the host, and sometimes like when I write the blogs, I also highlight your quotes, even though the
Uh-huh.
article is about the guest. But there are a couple
Yeah.
that stuck out to me, and that has been a theme. So the first one is, how do you define success?
Mm.
Or
Oh, how
maybe
do I?
maybe you've redefined it in recent years as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question and a great distinction. Yeah, think I don't know if success has a definition right now because I think it's a little fluid for me right now. Um, what I'm leaning towards or what I'm aiming for with success is more spaciousness, and that's spaciousness in financial resources to be able to invest in the things that I believe in. But then there's also like a spaciousness of time that I don't think that I have ever really experienced in my life because I've always felt like I've over scheduled myself, like hyper scheduling myself, even when I was in high school, like making the get up at 5 o'clock. This I do my workout, I do this. Like I'm curious to see what life looks like, you know, with significantly less obligations on my calendar. while also having more financial resources to invest in other things. Um, so that's what I'm aiming towards as far as success goes right now, but I think it's more of a little more of a moving target. I think I'll get really close to it and maybe hit it, and then like a new definition of success like springs off from it.
And I think that really ties to my next question because the two kind of go hand in hand. You talk a lot about freedom.
Mm,
What does being free mean to you?
mm. Whew, that's a good question. I I think it's probably spaciousness
Mhm.
again, and I'm also really curious what life looks like when you think and act from your center and your voice versus all of the voices and representatives and controlling mechanisms that are put on you. So like peeling back, I feel like as kids, like we are ourselves. And I feel like as we grow up and we experience earth, you know, there are layers that are put upon us that kind of frame the identity that we have. I'm curious. I think freedom is peeling back a lot of those layers and seeing like what's at the center and operating from that center.
I love that. You know how they say like don't lose the I don't remember what the exact quote is, but don't lose the creativity that you had as a kid or the
Mhm.
curiosity.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
that's so important, especially in the work that we do,
Yeah.
right? It's a creative
Yeah.
media work. It's so important to have that in your child of yours. So I love that.
Mhm. Yeah.
I know that we're running out of time and I want to leave on a
Mhm.
positive note.
Okay.
So talk about some biggest wins that you've recently celebrated, your biggest wins.
Oh man, biggest wins. That's a good. So the honestly, the first thing that came to mind is it is wild to me that several of the people on my team have been with me for over a year. Like that's a win. Like you've been here for a year now. Heather has been with us for over a year. Duman has been with Hey Awesome Girl for 2 years as of this filming, and Raja is approaching a year, like in a couple months, and that's a win for me. And I think it's also a win for me because I also don't expect I don't expect to like hold on to y'all and like hoard your talents, if that makes sense. Like, you know me, I'm always like, whenever y'all want to move on, whenever it's not the right situation, like because I get it. You're early in your career, like there's the world is your oyster. But I also think it's pretty dope that y'all have been with me as long as you have. Um, what's another win? I can't can't think of another win.
The show?
Yes, the show. Thank you, Demi, for all your expertise and help and support with the show. It's been fun. Yes, the show is a win because the show is fun for me. And I think I needed that reminder that work can be fun.
Mm.
And like I can lean into doing things that I really enjoy and that maybe I'm naturally good at in some ways, and it can still be of value to other people. Work doesn't have to automatically be hard. So that's a win.
And I've said that to you before, and I'll say it again, but like our mission is to inspire other people with the show and hopefully they learn something. But we as team members have been learning from it as well, from you and the other
Mm,
guests. And I think
No.
that's important to be part of the company that has this beautiful social mission and, like educational, inspirational, all of that, and not only put it out there into the world, but also internally channel that and
Mhm.
learn from that. And that's been something very important to me. And I talk to my
Mhm.
friends after I watch one of your episodes, or it makes me reflect a lot, and just like gives me these life lessons that I find myself
Mm.
referencing in conversations
Mm.
or to myself. Like one
Mhm.
recently was about like investing like into like my education or like taking a
Mhm.
course, and I was kind of
Yeah.
hesitant, and then I like thought about all of these things that I've learned from you on the show, and I was like, well, what am I waiting for?
Mhm.
You have to invest in yourself, whether it doesn't matter whether that's your hair or nails, but maybe it's
Right.
course, maybe it's something else.
Mhm.
And just hearing that and hearing that again from like people like you and other role models, it's just been so important for me and I'm sure other team members.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for saying that. It means a lot that you find it valuable.
Of course. So what are you excited the most in the next 5 years, the near future?
Ooh, 5 years. A few things. One, Hey Awesome Girl becoming a multi-million dollar company. Yes. Um, Building my little house and building a farm. Um, Possibly having a family, no prospects at this point as of this filming, but I still feel really confident that I have a partner out there and we'll have a family. Yeah, and travel. Like I
Mm.
gotta see more of this world. I love Durham, but I need to see more of the world.
Mhm. And you're going to Greece tomorrow.
Yes, yes, as of this filming, I'll be in Greece. I'm so excited.
Oh my
So
God, that's
excited.
exciting. You know what?
I got my black girl travel braids going.
Love it. You know what? Also, I love what you said about the future. It ties back to the beginning of our conversation of multiverses and different TVs. And
Yeah.
literally three of them that you mentioned are in the future. You're combining them.
That's true. That's true. You are correct.
I love So, as you know,
But
as the host, always at the end of the conversation, you ask people what advice they would give to themselves. So
mm,
now it's your time to give
ooh,
advice to your younger Tivi.
freaking Demi. I don't know why you do this to me. Um, I would tell my younger self two things. One, that magic is real and you create your own magic, and trust your gut. Always trust your gut. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you, Tivi. You're magical.
Oh, thank you, Demi. I appreciate you.
Okay, well, I had so much fun talking to you today. Got a little bit emotional, but also just touched and inspired. And I hope you have an amazing trip in Greece and send us a lot of
Thank you.
pictures. And make
I
sure you
will.
actually relax and not work on your laptop because we'll
Yes.
know.
Yes, I know y'all will. Thank you so much, Demi. I'll see you later.
And that is a wrap on our first season of Hey Awesome Girl with Tivi Jones. Oh man, it's been such a pleasure filming this project. I feel like it's definitely become more than I expected it to be, and I'm thrilled at that. And in true Hey Awesome Girl with Tivi Jones fashion, Olivia is under my desk again. She just wants to make her presence known on this last episode. Thank you so much, Demi, for interviewing me. It's such a pleasure to work with you and grow with you. Thank you, all of the viewers and listeners and commenters and DMers and texters and callers. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following along with me on what has been sort of an experiment. I love the show so much. I love being able to talk to these amazing women, these amazing beings, and explore their journey. It has been such a pleasure. We have so many great things coming in season 2. I'm very excited. Stay tuned. We've already started filming it. It's going to be great. In the meantime, follow us on social media. Check out our website, heyawesomeGirl.com, for more information about us, for freebies, for other resources, for all things Hey Awesome Girl. As a reminder, our social mission is to celebrate and empower women, especially women of color, trans women, all marginalized women. We want to help and support them through digital entrepreneurship. I personally see it as a path to confidence, wealth creation, and freedom. And I think that all women deserve that. And as I like to say, empowered women empower women. And it has been a joy, a pleasure, and a privilege to do that through the first season of Hey Awesome Girl with Tivi Jones. We will be back soon. Don't worry. But until then, stay awesome, girl.
So it's me again, just jumping back on to share a special resource with you. So I know I talk a lot about our pleasure, ease, and abundance framework that we use at Hey Awesome Girl, but maybe you aren't quite sure what that means and how you can incorporate that into your life. Well, we have a free resource for you that can help with that. It's our Pleasure, Ease, and Abundance playbook. In this playbook, I outline the 9 elements of pleasure, ease, and abundance you need to consider to help you create a life that is fun, fabulous, and free. I walk you through journal prompts, I share resources, and give you some actionable steps you can take to get you further away from stress, exhaustion, and being broke. To download this free playbook, go to heyawesomeGirl.com/framework, enter your email address, and we'll send it right over to you. That's heyawesomeGirl.com/framework to download your free playbook today.